very warm welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us at this news hour on Equinoxe Television, broadcasting from Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Bable Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, thousands of women, men, and children forced out of their homes in the northwest and southwest regions of the Republic of Cameroon by violence continue living in precarious conditions in different parts of the country. They are sending distress calls to the Yaoundé administration, to national and international humanitarian organizations. They are in dire need of aid. And 20 Cameroonian female leaders write to the United Nations Security Council and International Monetary Fund, asking them to intervene in the security crisis in the northwest, southwest, far north, Adamawa and east regions of the Republic of Cameroon, and also in the COVID-19 fund scandal, the alleged mismanagement and embezzlement of COVID-19 funds disbursed by the International Monetary Fund as loans to the Republic of Cameroon for the fight against the coronavirus pandemic. Those were top stories. We begin this newscast in the Mongo Division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, and Immaculate Fogwe is going to be narrating pathetic and disturbing stories of internally displaced persons, thousands of women, men, and children forced out of their homes in the crisis-stricken northwest and southwest regions of the country by violence and are now seeking refuge in that part of the littoral region. Many of them are living in precarious conditions. Her report.
The Mongo Division in the littoral region is currently accommodating thousands of displaced persons who ran away from the conflict northwest and southwest regions. Though there is relative calm in the area, the displaced parents are finding it difficult to make ends meet.
Look at the conditions under which the parents are living here. They are deplorable. They call for a lot of pity. For you to displace yourself from where you have maybe your home, from where you were not buying water, from where you were not buying firewood, to come to a place where you have to buy everything. It's impossible to survive. Here, most of the parents are just trying to survive, not to live. They are merely surviving.
Given the unstable financial situation of the IDPs, many of them are unable to complete their children's school fees, causing several teachers to end the academic year with months of salary arrears.
At the level of the school, it has not been so easy because we still have quite a number of displaced parents who are still unable to pay fees, and we could not keep sending their children away. We had to keep them in school from start to finish. As we are closing today, we understand with them and we are going to give their report cards.
Heads of institutions accommodating a good number of the displaced children are urging the state to support them.
We are one of those schools that hosts the highest number of displaced children. It was necessary that the government should intervene by giving us subventions, which we are due. We are due those subventions, and I think the government should do everything possible to come to our support.
The displaced persons wish that the ongoing war in the northwest and southwest regions finally ends so they can return to their respective areas.
Statistics from civil society organizations, including Stand Up for Cameroon and its Human Rights Working Group, indicate that over 10,000 people have died in the Boko Haram conflict in the far north region of the country and the Anglophone crisis in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and over 1 million children have been deprived of education in the conflict-hit regions, and gross human rights violations and the most ruthless violence meted out on people on daily basis in the crisis-stricken region regions, and this in a context where drinking water, electricity, roads, jobs, hospitals, and schools have become scarce commodities even for citizens living in parts of the country considered as peaceful. And it is within this context that 20 Cameroonian women leaders have written to the United Nations Security Council and the International Monetary Fund, and in an open letter to those organizations, a conflict, or the women indicate that as conflict rages on in various parts of Cameroon, the country is also rocked by a major scandal on the embezzlement of International Monetary Fund COVID-19 funds. In these rather turbulent moment, Cameroon will be on the international agenda in the coming days, indicates the women leaders, and they go further to say in their letter that the United Nations Security Council will receive the Secretary General's report on June 7, 2021, and the report on Central Africa will be one of the highlights. Over 10,000 people have died in Cameroon's conflict. After 10 years, the country is still fighting Boko Haram in the far north region of the country, and the Anglophone regions are still in the secessionist war that has been pulling on for close to 5 years today. And to respond to COVID-19, the women indicate that Cameroon sought for loans from the International Monetary Fund, and the first audit report of these funds produced in May 2021 by the audit bench of the Supreme Court shows that massive fraud and embezzlement had been masterminded by some government officials, and this as the country is negotiating a new extended credit facility with the International Monetary Fund and will submit its request to the IMF Executive Board in June. And in this context, the 20 Cameroonian most influential women leaders have come together to write to the international institutions, and their request to the UN Security Council is that the institution should take key measures to bring the crisis to an end. To the International Monetary Fund, the Cameroonian women leaders are demanding that no new funds be disbursed until the COVID-19 funds have been accounted for and the government has taken measures for responsible management. Now, for greater details, take a listen to this extract of one of the women leaders, the national president of the Cameroon People's Party, Kabanwala Edith.
One thing which is clear from the audit report, money has been stolen. The judicial process, which is to establish who stole it, when, and how. But money has been stolen from the Cameroonian people. Cameroonians died because there was no oxygen, because there was no personal protective equipment, because tests were not available. Cameroonians died, and therefore the International Monetary Fund, from which this money was taken as a loan, which has to be repaid, cannot give a new loan to Cameroon when we have not established who stole that money, why procedures were not respected, financial management procedures were not respected, and how they will be respected in the future, so that loans taken in the name of Cameroonians are actually used for the well-being of Cameroonians.
And yesterday there was a heated debate in the Northwest Regional Chief Town, Bamenda, as the regional officials, councillors, and divisional representatives met in the session that took place yesterday, and several issues brought contradictory opinions and views on the table, and the meeting pulled on till late in the night before the budget of the council or the regional institutions in the Northwest region was finally adopted late in the night. But lots of arguments and counter-arguments characterized that session, notably concerning the laws governing the functioning of the regional institutions, notably the decentralization code. And Weiyang Joseph, divisional representative from the Ngokotunja division, decried the violation of the 386 section 386 sub 4 of the decentralization code, which could contribute, in his opinion, to laying a wrong foundation for the Northwest region and a repeat of history, or better still, a repeat of errors committed by forefathers of Anglophone Cameroonians. Take a listen to Weiyang Joseph.
I will refer this humbly assembly to section 386 sub 4. I read, the budget shall be prepared and controlled in a participatory manner to take into account the needs expressed and suggestions made by the population. Mr. President, it continues with sub 5. The relevant state services shall be bound to provide local authorities with information required to prepare the budget. We again here appreciate those who have brought the required state services to assist. But, sir, going by your speech and the law of which we are out here to lay a solid foundation for the Northwest region, taking into consideration all the orders and the problems we are facing due to some errors committed by our forefathers, and hoping that history should not repeat itself. We are going against section 386 sub 4. In addition, sir, I refer you back to the fact that a budgetary session is for 15 days. We have just seen this budget here. I will tell you the truth. I have not even gone through 2 pages.
Highlighting other aspects of the decentralization law violated in the organization of the session, other councillors and divisional representatives said they were denied the responsibility to study and vote the budget with knowledge. Listen to some of them.
We are setting up the regional assembly. It is 6 months that we began the process. And the decisions involved in this process, they don't implicate only one authority. Before a decision comes here, it moves from table to table according to the authorities involved. And there are other constraints that do not depend on the regional executive. If they were, I think that budget would have been presented as you require and as the law requires. In management principles, representatives that we are, we elected this executive, the executive of the regional council. And the budget they prepared under the guidance of the technical services that matter. We should have confidence in that budget. I do not know whether you doubt the veracity of the figures or you doubt the modalities. Here is a budget which is largely functional and which has only 6 months before the end of the year. And the constraints tabled before the authorities were that it should be approved before the 15th of June. They have not, I hope, put your shoes, put your feet in other person's shoes, and then you can take the right decision.
That was Rada Chum Felix, Buri Regional Councillor from the Bui Division, explaining why the some of the laws of some of the aspects of the law on decentralization were not being respected in the course of that session. Now we come back to some of the regional councillors and divisional representatives who highlighted the violation of other aspects of the decentralization code and said that they were denied of their responsibility to study deeply and vote the budget with knowledge.
We may twist and bend the law, but it is not allowed to break the law. My duty is to advise this House that at all material moments we should adhere to the laws of the land. It is a sacrosanct fundamental principle of budgeting that those who have to vote, those who have the duty, the responsibility to vote the budget, they should be given ample time to study the budget, so that by that act of voting the budget, they are committing themselves, they are putting their life on the line, so that tomorrow they will be held and identified with the process. So this budget has violated, has denied this August Assembly the responsibility to study the budget and vote it on the basis of knowledge. So my motion is that let this former House, because we are acting in all fairness, let this August Assembly be given at least 2 to 3 hours so that we can study the draft budget as it is and reconvene for real business to be done.
We are not here as harmless, and the law, we have violated the law. And if we all take cognizance of the fact that we violated the law, it will be of great importance for us to rectify things and set the ball rolling in the right direction. I want to draw our attention to Article 428. I read, when the budget is not voted before the beginning of the financial year, the representative of the state shall immediately serve a notice on the local authority concerned by any means in writing to remedy the situation within 15 days. My Honorable President, we have the possibility to hold a session in March. And of course, this was within the period where the budget was supposed to be voted. We failed. We are in June. It means we have violated the law. The law also gives provision for the standing orders to be set in place in order that the budget can follow suit. We failed. Yes, we saw a tentative standing order that was sent by the ministry. It has attained expiration time, because it was supposed to last for 5 or 6 months. Now we are supposed to have our standing orders. And you, our Honorable President, you have done it so well. You prepared already a draft. These honorable members seated there are only pleading for maybe 2 or 3 hours so that we can cut the keys and all the like and keep the document which you have prepared for us for adoption. Is that too much for us to ask?
And the budget of the Northwest Regional Assembly adopted after a lengthy debate stands at 3 billion francs CFA. And speaking to journalists, Northwest Regional President Professor Fuang Wafo III elaborated on the opportunities that the region stands to benefit from the reconstruction plan of the Northwest and Southwest regions of the country and aid from the private sector. Take a listen.
Association of Cameroon's employers, who has pledged 1.2 billion for the reconstruction of the Northwest and Southwest regions. In the presidential plan for reconstruction, which I must tell you is specific to our two regions. Must I also remind you that on the 28th of January this year, the Northwest region and population were elated to welcome the gas storage and distribution plant that the plant will be launched here in the region. I think the entire investment, studies, projects, and the infrastructure cost way close to 5 billion. So you can see that apart from the budget that has been shared to all the regions, we have been favored by additional budgets, some from non-state actors.
3 suspected banknote producers have been arrested in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. They were arrested during an operation that falls within the framework of the fight against all sorts of threats launched by the Littoral Regional Delegate of National Security, Raymond Esogo. Smanjikan Gabriel has more.
It's nightfall in the economic capital of Cameroon, Douala, which marks the end of the day. But security forces from the Mobile Intervention Police Unit, GMI2, are on their way to Bonaberi in the Douala subdivision. In their car, 3 suspects involved in counterfeiting activities. At the residence of these 3 suspects, a thorough search will be done by security forces acting on the instruction of the Regional Delegate of National Security for the Littoral Region, Raymond Esogo, and the head of the GMI2 unit in Douala. In the house, items like packet of cigarettes, soaps, and groundnuts bought with fake notes are discovered.
The mode of operation of these guys is so easy in such a way that when they get into the neighborhood, they tackle the youths and people of a very old age who manage small businesses. They go about buying small articles that will enable them exchange money and do away with good money that belongs to the population.
Later, on their return back to GMI2 premises, an attempt will be made to get in contact with the main distributor of the fake banknotes, who is said to be residing in Yaoundé.
Hello?
Tomorrow now?
Hello?
Yes?
Yes, my room might be 10,000. 10,000. Okay. All the way now.
Because the latter denied showing up the next day, the 3 suspects will be presented to the public. Their arrest was possible thanks to the collaboration the security forces had from the population. A message is sent to those still in the same business.
For those who are still dealing in such activities, we are decided that from now henceforth, we are going to continue this fight to ensure that the flux of counterfeits around the Douala City area is going to come to an end.
Still at the Mobile Intervention Police Station in Douala, a 17-year-old lady used as a sale girl by her uncle was also caught with hard drugs.
Looking at the age of this lady, she has been used by her uncle, who so happened left her by his selling spot to sell and easy out the influx of marijuana. So we were opportune to get to this spot that has been operating for some time now. So the main dealer is on the run, and we are going to make sure that he's arrested and will answer for all the harm he has been causing around the neighborhood.
Reports say her uncle escaped when she was arrested. Security forces are in search of him.
The United Nations Educational, Cultural and Scientific Organization, the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, has said that physically challenged people suffer discrimination in Cameroon to a disturbing degree. In a workshop in Douala, the international organization, together with right groups in Cameroon, indicated that laws protecting persons living with disabilities are not respected in Cameroon. For me, Armstrong Sander has more.
In Cameroon, about 10 to 15% of the population are able differently. According to statistics from UNESCO, Handicap International and local civil society organizations, of this percentage, less than 1% occupies positions of responsibility in public services, and majority suffer diverse forms of marginalization. A critical concern at the heart of a workshop organized by UNESCO in the economic capital city Douala.
This workshop that is just ended is to put a lot of emphasis on the handicap approach. We know that persons living with disabilities have before now left the goal. It's like much is not being done, but it is true. A lot is being done for them. We have the laws, we have the text of applications, we have a whole ministerial department, the Ministry of Social Affairs, that takes care of persons living with disabilities. This year, the head of state has laid a lot of emphasis on development with a human face. We put the human person at the center of all the development projects.
And above all, to get stakeholders to adopt a sustainable development approach by involving people who are able differently.
When UNESCO organizes a workshop like this one, it is to call on all stakeholders. It is to ring a bell. It is to make policymakers know that persons living with disabilities have something to offer and should be part and parcel of the development process.
A multi-sectoral problem which must not be handled by the public sector stakeholders only.
We know single-handedly the Ministry of Social Affairs cannot do it all. We can't reach every nook and cranny. We can't handle all the problems. So it's a multi-sectorial business. That is why you have other sectorial ministries here present, and UNESCO has taken upon itself, with the support of other UN agencies, to foster this fight.
A work of sensitization accompanied by tough actions expected to make Cameroon a more inclusive and resilient society beyond texts and conventions.
That's it for the first part of this newscast. Talking Point is up next. Dr. Ita Ewane, Professor of Political Science and International Relations at the Karlsruhe International University in Germany, is joining us from Germany. Thank you, sir. You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Babila, for yet another opportunity to share my views with the broad audience of the prestigious Equinoxe TV on some of the burning issues of the nation.
Right. First of all, your reaction to this disturbing story of IDPs, internally displaced persons in Mongo, who are living in precarious conditions, and this is the case with many others, thousands of them living in other parts of the country who were forced out of their homes in the northwest and southwest regions by violence.
I think I have been an eyewitness to the living conditions, the conditions under which our people are living in the Mongo division, because 2 or 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to represent the Cameroon Patriotic Diaspora to bring aid assistance to the displaced, internally displaced people in Melo. it's quite disturbing to see the conditions under which people are made to live in their own country. It's troubling. You know, you find in a 2-by-2 room, you find 10 people sharing that kind of a room with very poor sanitary conditions. So it's quite disturbing. It's something people have to take seriously in that country.
And the situation in the meantime has been worsening, and they are hoping that things will return to normalcy so that they can return home. What can you tell them at this point in time regarding looking at the situation on the ground?
I think the only thing we can tell them is to hold firm. All is not lost yet, and we have to keep up the pressure on the government so there can be a paradigm change in order to create governance structures that will respond to the collective aspiration of the Cameroonian people. So these people have to stay strong because there's not much we can offer them except hope. If they have hope, they will be able to meet up with other challenges.
In the meantime, one of the lawyers of the Anglophone leaders in detention in the Kondingi maximum security prison in Yaoundé, Barrister Nicodemus Amungwa, has been arrested. What's your take on that?
I think it's, again, this is a clear demonstration that we are living in a brutal dictatorship. There is a complete absence of the rule of law in Cameroon. Now, this persistent molestation of lawyers, it's quite disturbing. I mean, it's only in Cameroon that you see lawyers, if lawyers are molested, if lawyers are terrorized, then what will happen to the common citizen? So it's something that calls for our attention, and I think we need to do something to protect the lawyers. They are there to ensure that the rule of law prevails, that people are given served with justice, and if they themselves become victims of the regime, then there is no hope for the common Cameroonian.
And despite the general outcry over what is considered as violation of the laws of the land, violation of national and international legally internationally recognized human rights, for militants of the Cameroon People's, or rather the Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform, are still in detention. Several officials of the MRC political party, the Cameroon Renaissance Movement, are still in detention. What can possibly explain the fact that all the cry coming from left and right for them to be released and not being heard apparently by the authorities in charge?
There is only one explanation to this, Mr. Babila. We are living in a dictatorship, a brutal dictatorship, and intimidation has become their only mode of governance. So it's creating fear, panic. They try to subdue people into obligation, and they try to rule, they try to assert their legitimacy by obligation. It doesn't work like that in a democracy. People should be given the opportunity to fully exercise their rights of citizenship. And what has been happening to the MRC party, it's quite appalling. And I'm using this opportunity to appeal to the Minister of Justice to ensure that these people are released, and these people are served justice. Keeping people in detention for months, for years, without judgment, it's inconceivable in a country that is supposed to be a democracy.
And in this context, at a time when there have equally been calls coming from everywhere for general amnesty and for those who have been arrested within the context of the Anglophone crisis to be set free as a way opener, something that could open the way for a return to peace and normalcy in the northwest and southwest regions, according to some political analysts and civil society and human rights defenders. Another person is arrested this time a lawyer, as I indicated earlier. What can possibly be the impact on the mindset of the people, on the opinions, on the way the people see the unfolding of things as far as those two regions are concerned?
What we see in Cameroon right now is the reign of terror. We have another Robespierre who is governing Cameroon, and he's ruling by fear. And the people in the Northwest have gotten used to this, and I don't think they are scared anymore. People have hardened their minds, and they are ready for the worst. And this is something we could have avoided. And if we do not change the dynamics on the ground, I'm afraid Cameroon will collapse into total chaos in the coming few months or coming few years.
Now, some 20 women leaders in Cameroon have written to the United Nations Security Council over the security crisis, not only in the northwest and southwest regions, but also the Boko Haram problem in the far north, and the gangs, or the armed gangs operating in the Adamawa in the east region, and the rebels as well. The security crisis in Cameroon that has killed tens of thousands of people. Now, what do you think the UN can possibly do at this point in time regarding the situation?
First of all, let me say, I think it is quite inspiring to see how these women have risen to assertively assume leadership in a country that had degenerated into a bastion of male chauvinism. If you look at the list of signatories of this open letter, you can easily deduce that it's a group of women of inspiration, with women like Barrister Alice Com, Henriette Kwe, Edith Kawala, Honorable Tomaino Ndamjoya, Rebecca Inoncho, Bejeline Domo, and the rest. These are women from all generations that are driven by a higher purpose, that is the quest for the return of peace in a country that was once considered to be the breadbasket of the entire sub-region. So I can equally assertively say that these women recognize and from the male-dominated leadership constraints in Cameroon. So they've started a chain of women of inspiration from the top, and I think we need to see this grow in Cameroon. We need to see this grow to include more younger generations. Now you ask a question, what can the UN do? What can the IMF do? So much. I think one thing is clear, Cameroon, the government of Cameroon has run out of options. The military option has proven to be futile. It's not producing the desired results. And so it is clear to all of us that this military solution will not work, and that Cameroon cannot single-handedly solve the problem anymore. So we need intervention from friends of Cameroon, from multilateral institutions like the IMF and the United Nations. I mean, there's so much that can be done to induce or to subdue Cameroon into negotiation. I mean, the IMF, for example, is considered, though it's considered a controversial financial firefighter, it was conceived, however, as a watchdog of the monetary and exchange rate policies vital to global markets. So the IMF has the possibility, and the United Nations as well, to impose economic sanctions that will bring the regime that will push the regime in Yaoundé into negotiation. So the IMF, for example, has been called the world's financial crisis firefighter to assist countries like Cameroon in dealing with the crippling sovereign debt and preventing contagion from spreading through the global financial system. And with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic, the IMF has sought to help countries like Cameroon deal with the economic devastation wrought by the new coronavirus disease. So it doubled the amount of money available through its two lending programs for addressing the natural disasters and the rapid, they called it the rapid financing instrument and the rapid credit facility, anticipating a demand for over $100 billion. So there are economic sanctions that can be put in place, suspension of financial, from the IMF side, there can be a suspension of financial and technical aid to non-compliant beneficiary states like Cameroon. The UN can embark on coercive diplomacy, to push Cameroon into negotiations, because like we say, there is only one way out of the current crisis. It's all about dialoguing, a dialogue between Cameroon, amongst Cameroonians. And if the government is unwilling, I think the international community, the multilateral organizations need to move one step further to push this government into negotiation.
Right, Dr. Ita Iwane, Professor of Political Science and International Relations at the Karlsruhe International University in Germany. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Babila, for the invitation.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinox will be us in some minutes. Stay with us.